Welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review, episode number 36. This is I'm reviewing the 7th Case Closed film, Crossroads in the Ancient Capital. Yep, this film was released, I believe it was in 2003, I think it was. Right? I believe it was. I'm just checking, just to be sure. And yeah, it was released in April 2003. Yeah, they was like released in April for some reason. I don't know why. And this is the first Case Closed film I had to watch subbed because the sixth film was the last one released dubbed. Now, this one is noteworthy for, well, not only being the first film not to be dubbed, but it is also the first film to use digital print. Yeah, and there's a bit of CGI in here, and some because it's very early CGI, early 2000s. It doesn't look like, I mean, watching it, when some of the scenes you see in this film, some of the CGI doesn't age very well. It doesn't look very good. Hell, the movie starts off with basically seeing a little boy, later revealed to be Harley, seeing a little girl. I'm not gonna reveal who this little girl is. Is that he's fantasizing about this little girl for years, where she's wearing kimono, wearing some lipstick, and she's playing like with a ball. And well, Harley falls over instantly. Of course, Katja thinks it's somebody else. I will reveal who it is in the movie. And of course, well, Harley is basically coming. He keeps coming to Kyoto, seeing this, trying to find this girl, just because he can't find her. Now, then it cuts something really bizarre. A mysterious masked man is murdering a half a dozen guys over this book. Yes, over this one book. And apparently people with copies of it along with maps. I mean, this looks like about 6 people who died in the flashbang. I'm like, wow. How do these people die? Well, one gets shot with an arrow. Like, the first people get killed, like, one shot in the body with an arrow. The other 2 get sliced up. And a lot of these other people get sliced up or shot with arrows. Yeah, no gun, just arrows and sword and a sword. Then we cut to present day where you see Conan, Rachel, Richard, and Serena coming to Kyoto. Yep, first time in the series they've actually come to Kyoto. This is years before they do it in the canon. Yep, and one of the places they visit here when they're visiting Kyoto is the same place where in the current season of the show where they have that picture, if you see the current show currently, where Sichi is basically holding Ren, like basically she kind of got pushed right into him and he's not smiling. Yeah, that's that picture's taken from. Yeah, they actually go back this one when they go on a school trip. Yep, and they're here to investigate a mysterious Buddha statue that disappeared 8 years prior. Yeah, and it's hinted at who was responsible for stealing this thing. It was suspected Harley stole it, but nope. It was stolen by somebody else, but the jewel fell out, and yeah, and here's the thing. This little crystal keeps around with him. He keeps around for 8 years, and it turns out belongs to the statue. I thought it belonged to the girl, but nope. It belongs to the statue. Yeah, from the look of it, it looked like a cube, but it was actually, if you look at it closely, I mean, when they first see it in the movie, it looks like a cube, like a small little cube that size of a sugar cube, and then all of a sudden it turns circular, like a circular jewel. Yeah, it's later revealed this is actually part of a Buddha statue. Yep. And of course, well, Harley and Conan basically are just going around Kyoto, going to this temple, where he sees a little girl, to figure out who it is. He suspects this little girl might be just a few years older than he is. Yeah. That's not entirely true. And of course, later in the movie, basically Conan figures out that Harley was the one who broke into the temple, but not steal the statue per se, but he did break into the temple. He did. And of course, this is also the film debut. This is also the debut of a recurring character who, believe it or not, who actually appeared in like 2 episodes of the anime. Here, this is first appearance. This is Farmagio Akaji. I think it's pronounced the same, yeah. Though I should point out, though, in the sub, they referred to him as Captain, even though his title was Inspector. Yes, and this is also the first film where McGuire does not affect the plot of the film at all. Nope, he's actually absent most of the, you only see him physically for like 2 scenes, and that's it. And that's kind of weird. Actually, about 3 scenes. You see him once briefly introduced a detective, where he introduced a squirrel. Next 2 times you see him, like one time is in his big room with the cops, and the other, of course, is in a conference room where he's talking to Saito Tagagi. By the way, this scene is the only other scene that Tagagi and Saito appear in, because these two do not affect the plot of the film at all. It's great the fact they're here, but they affect nothing. I mean, Santos basically does a lot more in the plot than these two do, and he appears almost as much as they do. Of course, he does affect the plot until, you see at the beginning of the film, and then for Santos, basically, he disappears for a good chunk of the movie until, toward the very end, until, a little bit later on. Also, the inspector is telling Harley not to investigate the crime here in Kyoto, which I'm like, yeah, he's a high school detective, fine. But the thing is, the murder happening here is connected to a murder happening in his hometown. So I would think that he would easily cooperate. Apparently he doesn't like cooperating. And apparently he's somewhat famous, and Santos refers to him as a rival. Yes, and apparently he's somewhat famous. I know Santos is rich. And of course, currently he's got a smoking hot girlfriend. But this is before he actually met up with her in the current anime. Yep, and then pretty much a lot of the film is just, well, a lot of exploration of basically a lot of development for Harley the whole film. Yes, this movie is all character piece for him. Conan is there, basically. He's more of like a supporting character of the film, and Harley is the main character of this particular film. Because, well, a lot of the time, Conan is the main character. It's okay. I actually don't mind this at all for the films. He does occasionally, but not every single film. If you look at, let's say, one of my favorite series, where one particular film, one character gets a lot of development, and that was Bleach. In the second film of the series, was explore one of the characters' past, which I've heard the creator himself loved the film, and of course, a lot of people praised it. This is another film basically does it, where the only other series, let's see, there's one other series that did this, and that was one of the One Piece films where they explore a little bit of Zoro's backstory. I can't think of any anime where they actually have a film explore one character's backstory. Because if you look at the Naruto films, every single one he's the main character. Not at one point where he sort of takes a bit of a side, but he's not the general focus character of any of his movies. I mean, yes, he's basically there, but he's not like the person who basically gets a lot of focus. He always gets a lot of focus in his movies. In One Piece, a lot of the time, it's basically like the whole crew gets a chance basically to get a lot of focus for them. But not like one individual character. I'm trying to think. Because a lot of other series I've watched, basically, where when they release anime films, I mean, very few of them release more than just 1 or 2 films. A lot of series I've watched. Case Closed is one of 4 series I've watched where they actually made more than 1 or 2 movies. And the only other series that done this besides Case Closed have been Dragon Ball Z, Naruto. Well, you gotta count Bleach because Bleach did release 4 films. And One Piece. Yeah, One Piece is another one. Inuyasha did the same thing too, but he only released 4 films, but not were basically this extent. Well, you can kind of say this is actually one of 4. I mean, yes, Inuyasha and Bleach did release 4 films, but at least more like 1 or 2. Like a lot of series basically I tend to watch, or some of them don't release a film at all. This series has released 23 films, which is probably the most I have ever seen for a film series. If you look at, say, One Piece, I think One Piece is releasing a 17th film soon. DBZ, I think they not released that even this high, but this series has the highest number of films, and they release at least once a year. While in the case of Dragon Ball Z, we release once every 2 or 3 years. Well, the studio likes making these films, so they keep pumping out these films every year. That's perfect to work on the anime. Yep, and of course they're investigating the murders. And we see a dancer who possibly could be Harley's first love, but nope, it's not her. Yeah, and of course they sing a song which is a hint of later, where how little kids in Kyoto basically memorize the streets of Kyoto by singing this particular song, so they can remember it very well. Okay. And all about Beato. I think it's about the game. I think it's about the guy's name. Let's see if I can find him here. Benkany. I think it's about it. Yes. He's hinted at in this movie, and he's referenced a lot. Also, the Detective Boys show up in this movie. Yes, they're here. Though the sub I watched referred to him as the Young Detectives, which, yeah, that's not their correct name. I don't mind the fact that the sub I watch doesn't have characters have, well, honorifics for them. You can hear it, them saying it, but you don't see in the sub of the one I watched. Yeah, I particularly don't like it when they refer to either the Junior Detective League or in the sub, they refer to them as Detective Boys by a different name because that's not their name, the Young Detectives. I'm like, no, that's not their name. It's the Detective Boys. Heck, even says in their badges. Basically, Harley, from his perspective, this is the first time he ever seen their badges. And the fact that he notices that Conan glasses can basically track them. Yeah, you don't see many, like, I would say probably like the only gadget of Conan's that's not used in the movie that's used frequently in the whole show is his voice changing bow tie. Yeah, I mean, you see the power shoes get used in here, the detective boy badges, the glasses, his basically his belt, basically like spring on a soccer ball, but and of course his tranquilizer, but not his bow tie, which is quite interesting. Yes, and this is also probably the first film where Conan is not, well, solving the case by himself. Usually in the show, he solves it via Richard Moore. This movie doesn't even. And here's the strange thing about these films so far. This is the second time I watched, and yes, he did briefly use it in the first film, would knock him out. But as the main case itself, nope. And this is probably the first, probably the second film I've seen where it doesn't have any explosions. There's fire. Yeah, there's fire toward the end of the movie, but no explosions. Yep. I gotta say, basically, Shaun of Kyoto in this one was actually really well done. And this is probably the first Case Closed film where Richard Moore does not interact with McGuire, or even Saito, or even Tagagi. He doesn't interact with Saito, with Santos. Yeah, he's the only one he interacts with, which I think is kind of weird. Now, the way the sub basically has the phone call says, where he has Santos basically calling up where McGuire calls him, I'm like, okay, he says, I am Sator. Like, that is not how you answer the phone. Yeah, yeah. The people who made the sub for this particular film, I had to sit through this thing. The sub is not very good. I mean, yes, they're good for certain sentences. It seems like though the people who basically made this sub I watched, I had no choice but to sit to this damn thing. And they basically do a lot of things correctly, but there's a lot of errors with this particular one. It's not a perfect one. Yeah, I prefer basically some of the more other ones basically just use a different sub. Yeah, but at least that Ren is not referred to as Little Ren by Conan or or whatever type of name basically for these other characters. Yes. Yeah, and then eventually at the end of the movie, basically we have, well, Katja getting kidnapped by the murderer. Well, before she actually had seen the guy, well, in a mask, where Harley fought him. He actually chased him a couple of times. First time with Conan, the second time with Katja on the motorcycle. And they chase him in this park near this river. They fight via wooden swords. He gets hit in the head. He also gets sliced in his shoulder and his side, also knocking out the jewel that was basically in his pocket, though he's going to pick up pretty quickly before the guy picks up. And of course leaves the knife behind to prove to somebody else. Yeah, as for the guy who would prove to be, yeah, it was a guy who only appeared in this movie. I'm trying to think, what was the guy's name? Who was real the guy behind all of this in this movie? It was. Let's see. I believe. Yeah, I think it was the. It was the bookstore owner. Yeah, he was behind all this. Yeah, he was the one who was. Well, yeah, the bookstore owner was basically the one behind like everything in this movie. And well, see, and of course, well, then we have this really awkward scene where Conan contacts Hybra, and we don't understand what the conversation is until later, where we see Harley shows up despite the fact he's injured, and he collapsed prior to this when Concha got kidnapped, and well, Concha figured out that yep, this is not Harley, it's Seiji Kudo. Yep, making his first appearance in the film that's not a disguise from the Kaito Kid. And he agrees that it's not a good warrior. And when Harley sees him, he goes like, "Kudo, how dare you steal my clothes?" I thought that was kind of funny. And well, he starts turning back normal. He's turning back normal. It's like, don't tell Ren that he was here. And then he runs to Ren briefly, and then he proceeds to use his tranquilizer to knock her out. And of course, well, and every time around, they maybe dreaming, and then sees the sweat later. Yep, he was definitely there. And then, of course, well, Conan, he turned back to Conan, and somehow he's able to do a quick change back to his normal Conan clothes. I'm like, that would take no more than probably about 10 minutes, and he's still fighting him on top of a rooftop of this freaking temple. And he thinks he's the heir to this particular school, and then, well, yeah, then the master died, and also this dancer was revealed to be like receiving money, and they didn't reveal exactly who father is, and basically it was the two inspectors, and Richard Moore figured out who her father was. It was Master of the Temple that hired them. Yeah, that's not revealed in the movie. Yeah, like that old man, he's the one who's her father. Like, okay, I can kind of believe it. Yep. But as for the fight itself, well, because the fact that the spiritual students showed up, and of course Harley gets hands on the blade of the guy who was a former owner of the school. He actually basically chases him to the rooftop of this temple and fights him. And he pulls out another sword. The sub first was this particular sub. First was a knife. I'm like, that's not a knife. That's a freaking sword. Why have I used a knife for? It's like, yeah, that's one of the many errors this basically the sub makes. Yep. And he fights him. Yep, fights him. And then he notices though that he tells him the second sword's actually covered with poison. So Conan takes it out via his trusty soccer ball and his power shoes. Has the archers basically fire right at him, though he would miss him. And he's able to jump up, use his power shoes, and he uses the ball to knock out the poison sword. Beat him easily, and of course they're like, the master's defeated, and of course, well, Conan had already lit the fire, and then of course you have Rachel basically beats the crap out of three of them, and you have Richard Moore does a judo flip, and of course Santo just takes a wooden stick and bashes one in the head, like, okay. And the guy really needs to know some self-defense moves. Guy's kind of a weak person. He also was a terrible shot too. And then of course, well, he has like he tells the rest of like arrest them. Of course, not his allies. No, arrest the murderers, arrest the murderer and his conspirators. And then of course later, and then they go back to the temple, and of course they find the actual Solon statue was actually kept in this particular temple in this little attic area, and only Conan and Harley found out where it was. They find it, put the jewel back, and is able to sneak back in the temple somehow without anybody noticing. And, well, and of course, Harley leaves his hat behind. The hat was also sliced up as well. Yeah, I know if I could probably get a replacement hat, basically, because he always put the hat anyways. Also, his detective friend from his hometown, yeah, he's there. He contributes very little to the plot at all. And I have this sinking suspicion that he might be Harley's godfather. It's possible, because he's always basically treating him with a lot of respect. And he always with him basically constantly. He refers to him as Harley-chan. Oh, Heiji-chan. And of course he refers to him as Oda Han. I'm not sure what the Han means. I've tried looking it up exactly what this honorific means. He probably refers to him as that because he's a big guy. It's possible. This overall is a good film, and yeah, that's why I think Serena is there pretty much for the whole movie. She contributes very little to the plot at all, but at least not like in the first 2 films where she pops up for like one brief scene and that's it. At least she's there the whole movie. Richard Moore does jack frickin' squat the whole movie because Harley's there. Yep. He does accuse the dancer of the murder, but nope, not the murderer at all. Nope. But this overall was a good film, and I do recommend people fans of Case Closed. Yep. Now, in the case of the next couple episodes for this particular review series, next I'm going to do a TV special. Yes, because it's a prelude to the 8th film. Yeah, I'm going to talk about... I thought this might be like a short... No, it's a full TV special, and it's actually the first one they actually air, what's called Time Travel of the Silver Sky. Yeah, that'll be episode 37. 38 will be the 8th film of the series. Yep. Now, as for tomorrow, I'm basically going to review, well, none of those 2 Case Closed reviews, basically. But also Black Clover's coming tomorrow. Excuse me, Fairy Tale, and possibly review the 9th Case Closed film. Yep. And, well, until I see you all tomorrow. Bye.